What's up, everybody? I wanted to take this time to show a little love and appreciation for what is going on with UVS at the moment. I know there's definitely some gloomer news out there, but I can't find any good that will come from including it in my content. So let's use a content friendly mini hyper Subway Surfer attention span list for the top three things I'm thankful for in universes from 2025. First off, honorable mentions. Of course, the community is super wonderful. It would be the free bingo slot on this list. If you paid attention to any of the Webcam Warriors or Ace Arenas this year, you'll know how grateful I am to everyone who made them possible. Sponsors, judges, players, viewers, streamers, commentators, anybody involved have heard my thanks many times this year, and it would be an easy number one to include here. So thank you again to everyone involved in those. Look forward to a survey I'm going to be putting out probably the beginning of December to try and get some data from people on what we can do better in 2026. Second honorable mention is probably champ cards returning. Some people would say it's an obligation of the company, and it's common to not heap praise on things we normalize or expect. But maybe that should change. I don't know, but I am glad to see them back, and low-key excited to see how the backup pricing for next year turns out. So who knows? Maybe we revisit this a year from now. But number three on this list is the rise of reprints. I know that things didn't get off to a particularly warm reception with the solo leveling experience bundle reprints. However, the existence of these reprints is very interesting to me. I recorded this originally thinking that the Borderlands experience bundle was going to extend the legality of the cards in question. Apparently, that isn't true. At least that's what I was told. I guess I'm not 100% sure. But my excitement might waver a little bit considering that. But I think it's a good thing if all these products that have supposedly been selling out, that at least a few key cards get a fancy reprint. I would like to see reprints that are meant to increase the longevity of fan favorite cards, or if a card might be rotating and there happens to be future support. It's always sad to see something rotate right when it finally gets some help from a future set or product. So giving that card a new lease on life would make a lot of people happy, I think. I also love seeing cards translated through other games or through other IPs. I know we didn't get the Bridget Walk the Dog that I really wanted, but Guilty Gear was a small set and they had to go with a lot of official names for stuff. But seeing it recontextualized to reference walking an actual animal is like a perfect example of how reprints can be interesting and exciting. So UVS has a lot of limitations with licenses, but it also has so much potential because of that. Number two has to go out to what I'm going to call looser design restrictions. A year or two ago, I was honestly kind of begging for people in general, but especially design, to look at the game from a wider angle. So much of the game was focused on the enhanced step, and I understand why that's where the meat and potatoes of the game exists. But I think we've seen improvements to the game and diversity in strategies from a lot more responsibilities and especially form abilities being printed. The ability to progress the game state without having to enter a complicated enhanced step has sped games up. Whether you like the flash attack strategy or not, the way that Midoriya on the move functions is honestly a great way to make a control strategy viable without making the game take forever. There is some design brilliance in that. Cards like Horrifying Realization and Plundering slash Treasure Hunting are not only flavor wins, but greatly reduce the number of non-games in my experiences, and I definitely am a fan of that. I'm not super thrilled about Infinity Symbol staple generic interactions like resets and, filled without, or the amount of tutorings or one card loops, but those kinds of effects and their overall power level do play into number one on this list. Number one is that casual play has actually been getting better and better as the year went on. Critical Role was really eye opening, and I think started the drip of just trying to jam the most pie in the sky, most Christmas land, just absolutely Yahtzee combo decks throughout the year. It was honestly pretty frustrating at first, just actually shifting gears from trying to optimize lower tier characters and instead just embracing their lowness. I had a ton of fun playing ridiculous high difficulty Scanlan with, cards like Colossal Confrontation back when Sweeping Daggers was legal. But I also had Nine Titans, so But high difficulty Scanlan, Armin Brilliant Mind, the guy who like can't attack anymore once you do his form. Who I really need to revisit actually. I don't think I've made the deck since AOT3 came out. And he does have order symbol without wit functionality, so there's got to be something there. Flash Mimic with Phantom Threat was pretty gross and maybe not even all that casual before he got the errata. Mothra, Jester 1. Oh, and until they changed the rules, I really liked playing Order Levi. You'd be surprised how much being able to commit your character to get a speed or damage bonus on the last attack you were going to play on a turn really changed how the deck played early game. So it's not been that fun since they changed the rules for Cart Titan, but whatever. Order Levi was neat, to just invest a little time into, recognize that what I'm doing has flaws, and just use some different cards and the same old staples over and over. I played more retro this year than any year before it, and that's got to count in casual play's favor. A lot of this joy comes from characters playing some really disgusting cards like Nine Titans or Genkai's Guidance or Walk the Dog or even at times Risky Encounter. Maybe that's why I don't play Armin Brilliant Mind anymore. But those casual decks will probably retain a lot of their enjoyment value, seeing the top decks lose those pieces in most cases. So I think that was overall, as the power level of standard and competitive got maybe a little too out of hand. I do think decks down in the dredges below were able to capitalize on, their unique low tierness, I guess, is just the best way to put it. Whatever their gimmick is that isn't quite competitive, can be bolstered by some pretty generically powerful effects to either stay alive, progress game states, and counteract what the best decks were doing. So as much as I don't think the competitive power level is quite right, we're getting closer every day. And at the lower tier, more casual levels, cards like Hunter's Ally really do make some strategies come together. And it the more powerful cards you can put in the deck, the less powerful your character needs to be. So I think that there is kind of a sweet spot going on with casual play that really came together after this last ban list. After this last ban list, not having Nine Titans like just randomly dunk your friends at locals made a lot of decks, a lot better. And there's a lot of decks that were casual and fun to play, but like you were gonna play Nine Titans in a casual backup deck, So anyways, that's my favorite stuff from this year. That stuff that I'm thankful that we get to see. Like I said, the looser design restrictions, being able to press buttons on my turn without necessarily having to commit to attacking, I think has changed a good amount of how deck building works and how I feel about playing casual games. And I think it speeds up my games quite a bit. And at the very least, it doesn't make it so that you get into the slog of having to go through a whole enhanced step just to draw an extra card, just to find out I shouldn't have attacked this turn, stuff like that. So definitely a big fan of these changes. I know not everything's perfect, but the only thing I need to know now is what you are thankful for from UVS this year. Let me know down in the comments below. I love y'all. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.